Amara sat at the cafe by the window, nursing her coffee as she watched the rain trickle down the glass. It was a quiet, unassuming day, but a gnawing sensation had settled in her chest, a feeling that something was wrong. She tried to shake it off, blaming it on the stress from work and the recent distance between her and her husband, Raghav. He'd been aloof lately, more distracted, and her best friend, Leah, had been unusually hard to reach. Both relationships felt strained, like threads pulled too tight. Then came the message. Amara's phone vibrated with a notification from an anonymous number. Curious, she opened it, and her world shattered in an instant. It was a photo of Raghav and Leah, arms wrapped around each other in a moment of intimacy that spoke louder than any words could. The caption read, "They say best friends make the best lovers." Amara felt her stomach drop, her heart pounding as 1,000 thoughts swirled in her mind. The disbelief, the betrayal, it was all too much. She quickly paid her bill and left the cafe, the rain matching the torrent of emotions inside her. In the days that followed, Amara's life became a silent storm. She said nothing to either Raghav or Leah, choosing instead to observe from the shadows, piecing together the truth of their betrayal. She read the signs that she'd missed. The late nights, the subtle glances, the laughter that seemed too private. A dull ache settled in her chest as she saw the love she had slowly unravel, thread by painful thread. One evening, Amara decided to confront them. But instead of a heated confrontation, she wanted the truth to unfold on its own terms. She devised a plan to catch them together, to see for herself the depth of their betrayal. It was a Saturday night. Raghav had told her he'd be working late, and Leah had mentioned she'd be out of town. But Amara knew better. She'd found the address of a little cabin Raghav had rented outside the city, a place he'd once taken her on one of their anniversaries, a place filled with memories that she'd thought were sacred. Under the cover of darkness, Amara drove to the cabin, her mind racing with memories and pain. The journey felt surreal, each mile bringing her closer to a truth she wasn't ready to face. But she couldn't back down now. When she arrived, she parked far from the cabin and walked quietly through the trees. The soft glow of the cabin lights pierced the darkness, and she could see shadows moving inside. She moved closer, her heart pounding, each step filled with dread. Through the window, she saw them, Raghav and Leah, laughing together, oblivious to the world. They were wrapped in each other's arms, and the sight was like a knife twisting in her heart. Amara watched, frozen, as the realization sank in that this wasn't just a fling. It was an affair filled with familiarity, comfort, intimacy. Unable to bear it any longer, Amara knocked on the door. The laughter inside stopped abruptly. She waited, steeling herself for what was to come. The door opened, and there stood Raghav, his face pale as he saw her standing there, dripping from the rain, a fierce determination in her eyes. "Amara, what are you doing here?" he stammered. She glanced past him to see Leah standing in the doorway, her expression a mix of shock and shame. "I think the better question," Amara replied coldly, "is, what are you doing here?" Raghav tried to explain, words tumbling out in a jumbled mess of excuses and half-truths, but Amara held up her hand, silencing him. She didn't need explanations anymore. She had seen enough. "You were my best friend, Leah," Amara said, her voice barely a whisper, but each word sharp as a blade. "You were supposed to be there for me. How could you?" Leah looked down, unable to meet her gaze, her silence speaking louder than any apology could. Turning to Raghav, Amara spoke with a calmness that masked the storm inside her. "If you wanted someone else, you should have had the decency to leave me first." She took a shaky breath, her voice steady. "I hope you both find whatever it is you're looking for, because you've destroyed everything we had." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving them standing in stunned silence. The days that followed were a blur of pain and self-reflection. Amara was haunted by memories, each one a reminder of the love she had lost. She thought of Raghav's smiles, Leah's laughter, the secrets and dreams they had all shared. She felt hollow, the betrayal a void that threatened to consume her. Yet, amidst the heartache, Amara found a strength she hadn't known she possessed. She threw herself into her work, spending her days rebuilding the pieces of herself that had been shattered. She reconnected with old friends, filled her life with new experiences, and slowly the wounds began to heal. Months passed, And though the memories of Raghav and Leah still lingered, the pain dulled. Amara was moving on, reclaiming her life piece by piece. She had changed, grown stronger, her heart scarred but resilient. One evening, she received a message from Raghav. He wanted to meet, to apologize, to explain. Part of her was tempted, but she knew better now. She didn't need his apologies or explanations. She had found her own closure, her own peace. Amara deleted the message, a quiet smile forming on her lips. The past was behind her, and she was ready to face the future, on her terms, free from the shadows of betrayal. And as she walked away from the memories, she knew that she not only survived the pain, but had become stronger because of it. In the months that followed, Amara embraced her independence with a newfound zest. She travelled to places she'd always dreamed of but had put off for one reason or another. She explored art galleries in Paris, hiked mountains in the Rockies, and danced in lively street markets in Bangkok. Each destination brought her closer to herself, allowing her to rebuild her life from the ground up, rediscovering passions she'd long forgotten. Her friendships deepened, especially with people she'd lost touch with while married. They welcomed her back into their lives with open arms, their support like a balm over her wounded heart. She joined a book club, enrolled in a cooking class, and started working out with a dedication that surprised even herself. Slowly but surely, she began to love the woman she was becoming, a version of herself that was strong, independent, and entirely whole. A new love, a second chance. One evening, while attending a charity gala hosted by her company, Amara met someone who would change her life in ways she hadn't anticipated. His name was Arjun, a kind, genuine soul who shared her love for art and travel. He was attentive, sincere, and unlike anyone she'd known before. There was an ease between them that felt effortless, like slipping into an old, comfortable sweater. Arjun had his own stories of heartache and betrayal, having gone through a rough divorce himself. They bonded over shared experiences, finding solace in each other's resilience and strength. Their friendship grew naturally, with no expectations or pressures, just mutual respect and understanding. Over time, Amara found herself laughing more freely, feeling lighter. Arjun wasn't trying to heal her, he simply stood by her side, and in that quiet presence, she found herself slowly opening her heart again. What began as friendship blossomed into a gentle romance, one that was built on mutual respect, trust, and honesty. One day, Amara bumped into a local coffee shop. He looked different, weary and somewhat lost. Seeing him stirred memories, but instead of the pain, she felt only a strange sense of peace. He apologized, again, his words faltering as he tried to express his regret. "It took losing you to realize what I'd had," he said, voice heavy with sorrow. "But I understand now, I don't deserve a second chance." Amara looked at him, feeling no anger, no resentment. She had forgiven him long ago, not for his sake, but for her own peace. "We all make mistakes," she replied softly, "but we have to live with the consequences. I wish you well, Raghav, truly." With that, she walked away, knowing that chapter of her life was finally, truly closed. Years later, Amara and Arjun built a life together that was filled with laughter, respect, and warmth. They travelled often, worked on creative projects together, and celebrated every small victory, knowing the importance of cherishing each moment. She had found a love that was honest and kind, built on a foundation of trust and friendship. It was a love that didn't make her lose herself, but one that allowed her to grow and flourish. And while the scars of her past remained, they had become part of her story, a reminder of the strength she'd found in herself when life had shattered her. In the end, Amara had not only survived her heartbreak, but had found happiness, peace, and love again, a love that was hers to cherish forever.